Hello, and welcome back to the Airshow Lounge podcast. In today's episode, we have a load of things to be talking about, including RIAT, Duxford, the return of Cosford updates, more Midlands, and the Red Arrows going on a Canadian tour. My name is Dan, and joining me today is
Jack
and Matt.
Well, guys, we have so many different things to jump into today. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to start with RIAT, though, see as though it is the start of Thursday's takeoff announcements all the way up until RIAT, and seeing as though they have announced some cool things already. They've announced a Spanish Harrier, or their Matadors, for the flying display, plus a Finnish F-18 for static, and a really cool little catch, which is the British Antarctic Survey Twin Otter, which is in a striking bright red colour scheme.
I think the Harriers are great. I don't know if you guys were at RIAT last year, but it was one of the absolute highlights for me to see a Harrier flying through the sky. Is one that an aircraft I hadn't really, I've never seen before flying. It sort of went out of service before I got into aviation properly. So the first time of seeing one flying last year, and it was brilliant to see and a great display. So hopefully they bring that same sort of energy this year to RIAT with the same jet. Hopefully the same one with a nice tails scheme on the fin as well.
Did they last year fly as a two ship or a single ship?
They did two sections. They did the solo display, and then they did a joint flypast with the RAF F-35B. That was a really cool
so
one as well.
When I watched them in 2019, they did a was it 2000? I think
it was 2019. Yeah.
They did a two ship demo, and I think that was one of the coolest experiences ever. Especially finding out that the nozzles are 89% vertical. There's just that 1% that obviously keeps them moving forward, otherwise they'd stall out. But as Harriers going from seeing absolutely nothing in the past, 10 years, to seeing the Spanish bring them over 3 times in 5 years has been absolutely brilliant, and it's been something that I think for the British public has been really well missed.
I think so, yeah, because we've missed our Harriers that people said we should have never retired ages ago, and I think ever since we've had those, we've never had anything like that on the circuit. And then in more recent years, we've had the Italians bring over theirs before retiring them for static, and we've had the Spanish come so regularly, which is it's almost unexpected. I was trawling the RIAT website, and on the Wednesday before RIAT announced what was coming, they accidentally updated their website, and I saw that the Spanish Navy had been confirmed, and it was just like, oh my god, they're bringing the Harriers again. And it's just such a cool thing to see in our skies. I think other cool things, though, something that may be overlooked, as we get it again regularly, is the Finnish F-18, but on static. Now, we don't regularly get F-18s on static. The last time was 2022 with the Spanish F-18, but then previously to that, it was 2017, then 2014, and then you've got a gap then to 2005. So we rarely get these sort of things on static, and especially the last 4 F-18 appearances have all been Spanish. So this is the first time since 2003 that we have an F-18 on static that's not Spanish.
I think, as a photographer, I think that's it. The Hornet is an aircraft that is really nice to take pictures of, both in the air and on the deck as a static. It's not. It doesn't stand overly tall like the F-15, the Typhoon. So you do feel, in a way, like it's more at eye level, if that makes sense. And because it's just a completely different shape to anything else that there is, other than the MiG-29, which is probably the closest thing that looks to the F-18. The F-18, like I say, I believe is one of the most picturesque jets on static.
It's definitely a cool looking aircraft. I was lucky enough to sort of get relatively up close to them from the fence line at Waddington year before last year at Cobra Warrior when the Finnish brought them over. So that's quite cool to see. But I think being able to get even closer up and look at one that's not moving will be nice to. Will be really nice for everybody to have a look at because, like you say, they're common in the skies, the flying displays, and tucked away on the north side of the airfield. But very rarely do they come onto the static. So yeah, nice little catch for them.
Yeah,
Hopefully they had a flying one as well because obviously they're always cool to see as well.
yeah, the last time we had a Finnish F-18 on static was 2001. So a while
23
ago.
years ago.
Yeah, so a while ago. With the Finnish Hornets, they always seem to come every other year. They normally alternate with the Swiss some years, so I don't know whether or not the Swiss' turns to come back. It's nice to see that we have got an F-18 still in the lineup, obviously with the Canadians. Whether or not they bring a Canadian Hornet for static, now that would be cool because we haven't had a Canadian Hornet on static since 2000. So endless amounts of possibilities for things that haven't happened in years, which would be really cool. Again, other cool things on static, the British Antarctic Survey Twin Otter. I mean, it's not going to be the most in your face. It's a cool jet, but it's a bright red Twin Otter that just looks beautiful. I don't know if any of you have seen photos of it. Probably going to be one of the things I'll be taking quite a few photos of.
It's not something that I've really looked at too much because it's in a way civvy. So it's not my cup of tea. However, I remember when the is it the oil response aircraft went to RIAT in 2019,
Yes, I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
and that got a lot of attention because, again, it's something that's very different.
Yeah. I don't know. We got a Twin Otter last year, which was in a weird digital blue and white camo. And it did a really short landing on arrivals day. I think it landed within 20, like two. It was at like 20 meters or something. It was a stupid amount of time. It slammed down onto the ground and landed within 20 meters, and everyone was like, okay.
You got another 2 miles to roll out yet.
I think he actually just quickly turned around and just went back because there was no point. So, but again, the cool things, and it's always nice when React starts back up and you start getting these just RIAT announcement type things, the cool things that you don't get any other air shows, and what makes RIAT so unique, and they've started that off. I mean, already with the 4 things that we've got completely announced, they are 4 unique items.
I
But
think with the Antarctic Survey aircraft, it's quite a rare aircraft to see outside of, the Antarctic research stations. I don't think they've got. I think they've maybe got one Twin Otter and one Dash 7, and that's it. So for them to, it must be up. I think they're based out of Cambridge traditionally. I think I've definitely seen it at Cambridge before. So maybe whilst it's in the UK, maybe for a bit of maintenance, they're sending it down to RIAT. But it's from a quick look at their website, it does a whole range of quite cool things. Reading this from Antarctic Survey website here, it says during a typical season, they will transport people, fuel, skidoos, sledges, food and scientific equipment to remote camps, landing on skis on unprepared snow. The planes will also lay depots and stockpile fuel for field science parties. And they can also do airborne meteorology and airborne geophysics. So enough to keep them busy down there in Antarctic, definitely. And say, lovely colour scheme as well.
yeah, I think on the RIAT website they said that it's based at Duxford this summer, apparently. So
Makes sense.
which should be again. So I presume it would be for maintenance or for some sort of storage over the time. That's I don't know. It's gonna be really cool to have on static. Other
I
notable
think
things to talk about, RIAT. Sorry, Jack. I'll let you go on in a second. Are the rumours of aircraft that are coming. We've got the Saudi Hawks are rumoured to come back this year for a second time in a row. And we're also meant to be getting the Danish F-16 again, which they did and Asked Me Anything on their Instagram. And they've said that we hope to be back at RIAT again this year because we hope that the weather's better.
I hope it's better too, to be fair.
Go on, Jack. You're going to say something. Go on.
all I was going to say, just adding on to what you said earlier, was I think as well now that RIAT are obviously doing their announcements, and it's it definitely it makes the winter now feel less wintry. You sort of get the summery vibes again because I know we've had um, Sywell and East Midlands obviously blasting it out there. And I think once you know that RIAT starts announcing, I think that's at the point where you go, okay, spring and summer aren't far away now.
Absolutely, I think it's when you get RIAT, it's like right, it's cool. Right, we're now getting into airshow season. We're not far away. You start geeing yourself up and stuff like that. Because it's obviously when normally now is when everyone else would start announcing things when the RAF stuff will start announcing who their new demo pilots are and what their schedule's going to be is normally when other air shows start announcing their stuff because it's what drags people into their shows. So yeah, it's going to be cool, but we're having again mass amounts of announcements. I mean, since the last episode of the podcast, just a couple of days after we recorded that, Duxford decided to chuck loads of different participants onto their summer air show list and confirm the speculation in previous podcasts that they are sharing assets with the Midlands Air Festival. They announced F-86 Saver, Team Raven, Richard Goodwin in his jet pits, the Titans, the Flying Comrades, the Red Bull Flying Bulls DC-6, and the Aero Superbatic Windwalkers. So again, there's a lot of their crossover between Midlands and Duxford.
I think that's quite good for obviously people in like the southeast region, because obviously Midlands to the southeast and predominantly to the southeast is actually quite a way up. So having that so close, at Duxford, it's still close to the Midlands, but obviously it's not as far. So at least those people get the opportunity to see it a little bit closer to home if Midlands is too far.
I think some of those acts that they've announced, things like the Team Raven, they're sort of up there with the Blades before they disbanded last year. I think they fly 6 RV7s, so definitely I think they're the largest civilian formation team in the UK.
Yeah, definitely.
The Titans, I had a quick look, is an interesting one. It's a 2-ship aerobatic team, but they're not the same airframes. There's a high winged aircraft and a low wing aircraft as well. I'm trying to find which ones they actually are. There's Extreme Air XA42 is the low winged version, and then an American Champion Extreme Decathlon is a high wing aircraft, and they do their display routines together. So that's quite an interesting.
Yeah, I think I've seen them at Duxford once before. I can't remember when, but it was either last year or the year before, and I'd definitely seen them at Duxford before, and they were really cool when they did go. I think other notable things which showed up at the Battle of Britain Air Show last September were the Flying Comrades, which are a mixture of a couple of Yak aircraft, I think, and again, really cool formation things. It'd be nice to see whether or not Midlands can grab some of these and then take them over as well. But again, I think you've got to think of different audiences. People that go to Duxford are not going to be the same people that go to Midlands.
Definitely, I think one of the impressive ones I'm looking forward to if I end up going to one of the Duxford ones is that DC-6. I know we've mentioned it previously on the past part of the Flying Bulls. I think that's a really nice catch for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's just nice to have all of them back in the UK, the Red Bull stuff, and again attending more and more shows as we see with that. And again, Duxford is primarily going to be your D-Day sort of celebration of the thing, but it's nice to see that with them both being on the same weekends, if you went to one or the other, you're going to get a little bit of difference, but also you're going to get some of the same stuff as well. So it's not like you're missing out on everything. Some of the cool stuff that's going to both is going to be, you're not going to miss out.
Just have a look at the Aero Superbatic Wingwalkers. I think are they a 4-ship? Are they, or is it
I
just
think
a 2-ship?
they used to be the Breitling ones,
Hmm.
until I think they've obviously rebranded. I know they used to fly quite a few, but I think they are a 2-ship as of now. But whether or not that obviously changes for this summer, I know last summer it was a 2-ship. So, yeah.
Either way, pretty cool stuff to see.
I mean, they're mentalists. I think,
mean,
I think I said on a previous podcast. Imagine being hit by a fly at 90 mph still on
yeah, I
top of
know.
one of those. It's and the flexibility of some of these people. The girls on top. And I say girls because every time I've seen the wing walkers, it's always been a female.
Mm,
So that's why I say that. But the flexibility and versatility of how they do it is mind blowing.
yeah, I think I've thrown myself out of a plane. I've done skydiving. There is one thing I do want to do, it is wing walking, but I don't know whether or not I have the courage as of yet to chuck myself on top of a biplane and have things hit me at 90 mph.
I wouldn't be. I'd happily jump out of a plane with a parachute, but I wouldn't stand on top of an aeroplane because it's that I'm not great with heights, and I don't feel like I'd be able to trust whatever it is that's attaching me to a metal pole.
I mean, realistically, it is, isn't it? It's just a metal pole with some strings.
Yep.
So yeah, it's cool. I mean, talk about other brilliant, cool things, and finally, we've talked about them in many different podcasts. Cosford have finally started their announcements. They've been quite good with their social media so far and actually communicating with everyone, and they're having regular Friday announcements. So we have RIAT on Thursday, every Thursday up until the show, and now we have Cosford every Friday up until the show, and have announced the Gazelle Squadron, which I haven't seen in a while, as a 4-ship, and Sally BB-17.
I think I quite like the way how they did their announcements, and hopefully they do the same moving forward every week on their Instagram stories. At least I don't know if I saw it on Facebook as well, but they sort of put like a question and answer box up, and asked people to try and guess what the announcement was going to be based on a series of emojis across the screen. And I think that I eventually got it after some round the houses working out what the last two emojis were for the flying fortress. But it makes you think about it and try and work out ahead of time what the announcement might be, and then get that nice confirmation of, yeah, I've worked out what it is, and I was looking
It's a
forward
good.
to it.
It's a good way for. It's a good way to get engagement as well, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well,
You know,
they posted an image on their Facebook that you had to like zoom into different parts of and read really faint bits of text to see what they were saying, to say that there's going to be another announcement at 7 p.m., which is when they seem to do their Friday announcements. Which is like, I'm glad that they're trying to come out of this with a good try and go at PR and having a good communication, because again, last year it was quite lack, and I think through that communication we've got bits of different info, and they've been quite good. And thank you to the whoever runs the Facebook admin accounts for commenting on the post that I shared on our Facebook. So thank you very much. If you wanted to come on the podcast, you can. You got to get that in there somewhere.
I think with Cosford as well. I think with anything that you look at RIAT and you can always post off your thoughts, can't you, as to how you think the air show went and things like that. And I think with Cosford, they have taken that into consideration with how they're doing it this year, because it seems like they're definitely listening to the wider audience as opposed to it being one or two individuals.
Yeah, and I think but before, when they announced that they were going to start regular announcements, they also said, "What would you like to see us announce?" And they were communicating with basically every comment someone made, and people would say, "Oh, we'd love this, we'd love this." They were like saying, "Take note," to do with winky faces and stuff. I mean, they've hinted at different things, whether or not they are actually going to get them, whether or not it's them just teasing. They were like putting winky faces when someone said Swiss F-18 or Belgian F-16, and they were like noted and stuff like that. Some may see that as quite childish,
I think
but I
it's a
think
good thing though,
it
because
is, yeah.
I think one thing we've seen a lot this year, I think mainly with places such as now Cosford, Sywell, their social medias, and a whole range of other ones. They've been, at least what I've sort of seen from this year to previous years, they're quite engaging as opposed to before you'd see them, people would put all the comments like you say, oh, I want to see the Swiss F18, I want to see the Belgian F16 and XYZ all in the comments, and they'd go through and like them all. But, we've actually managed to get some quite decent information out of those comments. I think somebody on the Cosford post did about in the comments of asking for the flying balls, and then it transpired that actually RAF Cosford Airshow team responded to them and said, we tried to get them, but unfortunately they won't be attending this year. And I think that sort of is a good way to dispel rumours and myths that are flying around and get the info across at the right sort of time.
I think one of the reasons why the balls might not be flying at Cosford is because I think it's relatively close to Midland, and it's on the doorstep. So I just think if they're coming over here to showcase for the wider, there's no point in having two displays next to each other, so close to one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be talking rubbish or whatever, but that's what I feel. And it's nice that all the air shows aren't going to be similar. They might be close in some ways, but they're not going to be exact.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because Cosford comes in a week after the Midlands Air Festival, and then I think 2 weeks before Sywell. So the Flying Bulls have got to still be in the UK at some point. Whether or not they actually send the stuff that they're not going to have for Midlands and Duxford home after that, and they're not going to take to Sywell, and they reposition the P38, the Mustang, the Corsair, and the P25 all to Sywell, and then use it from there. Maybe that's something they end up doing, but it just seems a little bit of a weird one, doesn't it? That Cosford's bang smack in the middle, yet two shows either side of able to get them. I mean, we can all speculate of, is it because it's too costly, or have they demanded this or that? We'll never know. But I think we've got to take the positives from that. They've clearly communicated. We've asked a question, and they've said not going to happen. We've asked. Communication channels are still open. That's one of the things they did say. If something was to arise and we could bring it in, then we will. If not, then we've been open with you, and we can't ask much more from that, especially after some of the stuff that happened last year of just things chopping and changing so much. And I'm glad that they are now on a good, consistent path of announcements that were on sporadic now. It's every Friday, very consistently, just like RIAT almost. I'm bringing that back.
Definitely. I think things like, nice to see the Sally B back. That's a good air show staple, but I think it's one of those aircraft that you could see it almost every single weekend at every single air show, but you still wouldn't get bored of it. It's got so much like history and heritage behind it that you can really just make the most of seeing it every, even if it was, let's say, every weekend. So
I
nice,
think
another nice catch for them.
what I like about what you said there, Matt, as well is if you did that on the flip side with the Lancaster, the Dakota, Spitfires, Hurricanes, when you go to an air show and you see the the elderly generation, and they go and they see it, and you see them like tear up, you know that it hits home, and that's because obviously for them that was what they grew up with. But it's also like Sally B. It shows that there are people out there, even to this day now, who still want these amazing warbirds to still fly.
Definitely. I think even say the elderly generation, some of them might have either they might have either worked on them during the war or even flown them. So it must be nice for them to to see their aircraft still flying on at such large and prestigious air shows.
Yeah, and it's dedicate. It's dedication that they gave. Back in the 40s, 30s, 40s, and then you've obviously got the crews now that fly them, the crews then that flew them, but then you've still got I don't think the engineering even now is going to be too dissimilar to what it was like during those times. So there will always be people there going, I wonder if it's still done the same. And with those sort of aircraft, there might be one or two modifications to what they do to make it less costly and more effective. But it won't. Not everything will be done by computer. A lot of it will be done by hand still, like handcrafted.
Definitely, definitely.
And I think also it's with the B-17 is it was meant to be there last year, and I think before it got grounded, that's when it was meant to be going, and then it got grounded because of the structural issues and stuff. And now it's coming back, so I'm glad that they got it back for this year. I think again we can move on to another air show that's been getting consistent and interesting aircraft. One of which is old aircraft that means a lot to loads of many different people. Is Midlands Air Festival have got the P-51 Mustang from the Royal Rolls-Royce Heritage Flight, and they're always a nice little cool display for the Midlands Air Festival, which is Turbulent Display Team, which do their flying through little banners and gapes and dropping things out of the planes and stuff. It's one for the kids, really, that display. It's a really cool little display with a little aircraft. And again, Midlands are going from strength to strength as well, announcing more and more participants as the weeks go on.
I think. Sorry, you go ahead.
All I was going to say is I can't think of a year where there's been so many Spitfires and P-51 announcements, because it's just every time there seems to be an update, there just seems to be P-51. Don't get me wrong, I love the P-51s, but I didn't realise how many there were that still go about now.
I think there's been quite a few that have been quietly being restored behind the scenes, and suddenly, maybe as a result of having some downtime post COVID, they've sort of been able to really knuckle down and get them back to flying, and then they've slowly brought them out the woodwork to fly around the local area, and then back onto the display scene. Like you say, it's nothing to sniff at. They're lovely aircraft to see and hear as well.
I think I've got a friend who was an ex-Thunderbird pilot, and he was given the first carbon fibre P-51, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was that made it. But his name's Dozen Aldridge, and he flew it for months and months and months, took it to air shows, and he said it was a real honour to fly something that old, but that's so modern, because it was so new.
Was it one of those ones where they'd sort of
I think
almost?
it's scale wings.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I think I've heard of those before, but they sort of make a slightly smaller version, but
Yeah, 75%.
but effectively it's a brand new old aircraft.
Yes.
That's quite cool.
I mean, that is really cool. But yeah, no, I think agreeing with Matt. I think we've had loads that have come out of restoration. I think in different parts of Europe, and that's why we're getting all these ones that have been brought together. I think Cywell had their own, obviously, that of coming with Ultimate Warbird flights. So yeah, it looks good for the prospect of air shows in the future in the UK and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I'm really happy with that.
Team Turbulent is quite interesting as well. I think they're barnstorming, aren't they? Really, type of thing. And I think they work really well for those small, sort of intimate venues. I know I've seen. I don't know if it was them specifically. Maybe another display team, quite similar at places like Shuttleworth and Little Granston. I mean, you've got quite a small venue with a small aircraft doing cool and wacky little things. It's quite entertaining to watch. It's not necessarily one for photos or anything, but I think it's quite impressive to see stream of four aircraft going underneath banners relatively low to the ground and cutting balloon strings and dropping flower bombs out the canopies and
It
stuff like
it sounds like a clown has been given an aeroplane.
that.
You know, that's something when you hire a clown to come to a birthday party, that's something that they would do. You know, and I like in a way that obviously it's being done safely, but I like that, you know, like you said, it's accommodating to children.
I mean, here we go. I found on their website the highest manoeuvre we perform, called the Prince of Wales break, takes place at just 700 feet above ground level, while the lowest takes us down to 3 or 4 feet as we fly on the lines of bunting. And there's a picture next to that little bit of text with two people holding up the bunting and an aircraft flying beneath the bunting, and the wingtips are effectively at head height. So, yeah, that's if the highest manoeuvres are less than 1,000 feet, that's gonna be interesting to watch.
At least you know you're going to get a full display if the weather's bad.
Well, yeah, that is true. 60 minutes as well, apparently it lasts. So,
What a cost! That's quite
I
lengthy.
think I've seen some pretty short clips of it from Midlands Air Festival before, and I've never been to Midlands Air Festival to see it, but it is a cool little display, and it's very unique. It's very family esque, definitely. Again, which is pandering to the audience of the Midlands Air Festival and stuff like that. So it's been good to have that there again, and I think they've been now for I don't know how many years in a row now. I think I've seen them there. So again, it's a Midlands staple now.
I do think with Midlands as well. I think that is probably the most family-esque air show there is, because I think it's because of the location and everything like that. Every time, so my uncle tends to go, or he sends me videos from it, and all you ever seem to see is children, and that's, you know, again, it's inspiring the next generation.
I think, like what we said before about Midlands, I think it's one of those very well placed air shows. It's accessible to a lot of the country just because of where it sits along the road network. So, yeah, I think it's likely to draw in a little bit of everyone than just the dedicated die-hard lot that are going to go to some air show in the depths of the countryside somewhere miles from anywhere.
Mm. No, I agree. I do agree.
I think speaking of displays for families, the Red Arrows. It's probably the worst segue I've ever done. Anyway,
Have a word with yourself.
um, the Red Arrows are back to a 9 ship from last week.
Hey.
Way, it's only been 3 years.
And the rest?
So the first time since was it October 2021, the Red Arrows are flown as a nine
No,
ship.
was it pre-COVID?
It was 2021 October.
Was
Probably
it?
worth caveating, first 9 ship display. They've done 9 ships in the past for flypasts, but this is the
Just
first
display proper
display 9
thing,
ship.
yeah, proper thing. They're back. They performed not a full anywhere near full display at Waddington, but they performed a couple of different formations and some cool stuff that we're going to talk about very shortly. It's just nice to see them back because, oh my word, at RIAT last year it was a hard watch. The Reds, when they've been,
It's
especially being a seven, it was a really hard watch.
It just never
last.
seemed polished. It always seemed there was obviously there was something missing, but it always seemed like there was something missing. And the photos and the formations as they flew past just looked a bit lopsided because of just naturally how 7 jets had to try and fit into where 9 normally would to create the full display. So yeah, I think it'd be great just to get the proper Diamond 9 back flying through the skies of the UK, Europe, and further afield.
I mean, the last couple of years, you know, they've done exceptionally well. You know, as an 8 ship, as a 7 ship, you know, and for most part of last year, they had an issue with. I think one of the pilots was quite unwell for most part of the season. Obviously, the year before, they had the canopy shatter at an air show, so they've kind of had it all. But I think what John Bond is uh, is doing as well is bring coming into slightly more on the topic is he's bringing back some of what is older routines, and different formations, and I think that's going to be quite refreshing after such a long time of not having a Diamond 9.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of old formations and stuff like that, one of the cool things that I've never seen before, being very young, is a thing they're bringing back, which starts the second half of the display. Instead of going something like the palm split, they are doing something called the 5 versus 4, which again, if you were born any later than 1993, you'll have no idea this maneuver probably existed. Basically, what happens is the red arrows will come by as a Diamond 9 doing a pass. They were split into both Enid and Hannah, formerly known as Jippo, and they will come at each other as an opposition pass in the two groups of 5 and 4. Something that like we'd see with the Frecce Tricolori. Again, something that we haven't seen for years with the red arrows, and it's just going to be refreshing to see something new. Well, I say new in quotation marks.
Well, I mean, that's what, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
So, and even to those who, were alive back then, they may even have forgotten what that was because, after a couple of years, it becomes normal to see what you're seeing, and it becomes repetitive. Not repetitive in a bad way, but it's just nice that that they're going to do something that's like, I can't think of the word.
It's
Gonna
different. That's the
gonna
word, isn't it?
gonna
Yeah,
build on the previous years, but keep adding something new to it.
Because it's something that we don't get with the red arrows. It's something that a lot of people do talk about. Is nothing different. It's the same thing every year. So if they are going to bring back new things or try new things or bring back old things that haven't happened for 30 years, like their entrance from Crowd Rear this year looks like it's going to be a diamond. It's going to be the Diamond 9. They're going to enter from Crowd Rear in Diamond 9, but it's like a wide Diamond 9, so it's quite spaced out. And again, that's probably show off the back as a 9 ship because it's their diamond. Is it their diamond sort
Yes,
of
yeah.
year, isn't it? For their
60th anniversary, diamond anniversary, yeah.
So yeah, so they're going to enter from Crowder in a diamond, which again I can't think of if that's ever happened before, and if it has, it's definitely not in my lifetime. So
I
again,
think
that's
I think as well. If you look at what was it? Was it called the wall that they used to come in as? Is it the wall?
Yes, where they come over in like the extended arrowhead type, and then they
Yeah.
pull straight up in front of the crown, isn't it?
yes,
So
yeah.
I'm
I think
I'm doing the
I
news
think
with
with
my hands as I'm explaining
With
as well.
with the wall, I think some of the issue with it is that as a entrance, they have to pull up quite quickly because obviously they
Mm.
then they start to realise that they're running out quite quickly. So with the Diamond 9, I think because they're all basically just going to pinch in on each other, because that's what the wall did. It went wall to Diamond 9. I think because as they're pinching in together, you're not going to miss out on the Diamond 9 because it happened so fast. All they're going to be doing is just getting closer as opposed to having to really, really change the formation.
Well, that's why they sort of trick you because they don't actually go into Diamond 9 as they go over the top. They actually switch into 9 arrow. It's weird. They come in Diamond 9, and as they go up over the loop, they actually spread out into 9 arrow.
Okay.
So again, they're doing different things to what we expect. It's cool. It's different, and again, maybe probably got something to do with it being 60th anniversary. Again, it's a new team leader since the last time they were a 9 ship as well, isn't it? So obviously he's going to want to do something extravagant and be completely different. And because again, this year, if the Saudi Hawks and the likes of that come back to RIAT, you get to compare them again. Because last year the Saudi Hawks were better than the Reds. If this year the Reds come back and they are better than the Saudi Hawks, they've improved massively, and then we can all go home happy.
Yeah.
But with all of this 9 ship announcement and everything, they've also announced, as we've expected, they're going on a Canadian tour.
Do you reckon? Do you reckon this is the British way of peacekeeping with the Canadians because we're taking the Canadian F-18?
Potentially, maybe try to ease relations.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are going on a Canadian tour from I think mid-August to 5-6 weeks, all the way into September. Stopping at air shows like Airshow Atlantic, Canadian National Airshow in Toronto, and Airshow London. There's a couple more shows that they're going to as well, including, and there's going to be other fly passes, ground events, ground engagements, all stuff like that. So they're going to Canada. They have said it's for obviously the Canadian 100. It's their centenary year this year, as RIAT are doing their celebrations with that. So it's going to be nice to see that. Whether or not they're going to have a special Canadian manoeuvre when they go over there to celebrate 100, maybe they might do it at RIAT, since that's one of the themes.
I
So
think
we'll
one of the
see.
nice things with it is, I think, especially for the UK air displays and the European side of things, they seem to be going later than what was sort of rumoured previously. Everybody sort of thought that it was going to be a case of RIAT finishes and off they go for months on end,
Yeah.
and they'll be back at some point. But obviously now, with the fact that it's only 5 weeks and they're sort of heading out mid to late August, there should be a good solid number of air shows in the UK that will
Yes.
be able
Yeah.
to have them attend. Obviously, yes, it means that they won't be attending air shows such as Bournemouth, but you know, it is what it is, and they get a cool name for it as well. It's been termed Maple Hawk 2024, which I think is quite a nice sort of
That is a cool name, but
exercise
yeah.
name.
Yeah, and I think it's good that we're going over and celebrating their stuff, especially if the Canadians are going to bring stuff over here for one of our air shows. So it's a nice switch about and celebrating someone's centenary, which again, the Canadians came over when they brought their CF-18 demo, and it was our centenary. So it's repaying the favour, and it's nice to see that we are keeping those relations up, and the Red Arrows are going to go and show, hopefully, why they are one of the best display teams in the world, with a renowned, new, refurbished, repolished 9-ship display.
And a new little livery. It's nothing
Nothing major.
fancy, but it's a nice. I think it's quite a
Yeah.
nice little touch for what is the 60th anniversary. It doesn't need to be anything super fancy, but it's just a nice added touch to
Yeah.
the airframes, I think.
Absolutely, and I think we can't complain at any of that. And hopefully, again, we see them at this year at RIAT, and they are one of the star performers, and we're all happy that the Red Arrows are doing something different.
Definitely. Can I just before we end?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen something on social media yesterday,
Oh, here we go.
and it's to do with Bournemouth.
Okay.
So you get these artists who obviously draw up and paint like displays and display aircraft.
Yep.
Well, there was a display aircraft on there that's not ever done a proper display. It's only done fly pasts, and it was an F-35B. Now
Oh.
I'm wondering potentially if Bournemouth may have something up their sleeve.
Oh. Well, that would be something for Bournemouth, wouldn't it?
I'd like to add one thing about Bournemouth. They have actually also officially announced that it is going ahead this year. Amidst
Yes.
many rumours that it was going to happen, it wasn't going to happen. It was only going to be 1 day, 2 days. They've officially announced it is Thursday, 29th of August to Saturday, 31st of August. Maybe a slight oddity with the fact that it's Thursday to Saturday as opposed to Friday to Sunday, but obviously they've got their reasons behind it. But it is to note as well that this is the last year of the airshow in its current guise. I believe from next year it will have to be entirely externally funded, as in I don't think there'll be any council-backed funding for the airshow as there has been for the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
hopefully they can keep it running.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that they are back this year, and hopefully they are going to get something cool for it, because to end off the season. And yeah, I think this actual season keeps getting better and better and better, and yeah, we cannot complain at all so far. With what we've been teased, and let that keep happening and keep going as we go into this airshow season. I think on that note, we will go end this episode here. Thank you for listening to our 6th episode of the Airshow Lounge podcast. We enjoy making this so much. As you can see, we keep switching people out. It's not because we just don't like people. We want to get as many people's opinions as possible. We're absolutely loving it. And that's why that when you comment on us on social media and stuff, we always try and reply and create conversation, because we just enjoy talking about air shows. That is why we did this podcast. We all go to them. We all either take photos or go and watch them. And we're thoroughly enjoying doing this now. And I'm enjoying talking to all of you guys on social media as well. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on Instagram and on Facebook. If you just search the Airshow Lounge, We are on both of those social media platforms, and you can keep up to date with any of the Airshow news or information going on, display teams going over different parts of the world. We're going to try and cover it on there as well. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you hopefully maybe in a week or 2 weeks, depending on what gets announced, for the next episode of the Airshow Lounge podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.